Well, I've finally gone and done it. Built this log and reward fragment legendary champion in Arix. We are talking about Cleoptrix, and just checking the in-game reviews real quick. Ooh, is she actually worth building? I'm going ahead and built her so that you guys don't have to, right? I got a 5-star soul for this champion. Got a few from the fragments. I thought, you know what, I might as well get her fully booked and actually take her out for a good old test run. We're going to talk about what she does, areas of the game where she should excel, which is kind of the problem. Spoilers. Talking about how you can build your Cleoptrix to get more value out of them, and most importantly, whether you should bother building this champion at all, man, given that it's a freebie. You know what I'm saying? Hey, before we get started, if you're looking to create a new raid account, man, get that done right now by using the beginner link that's down below this video at the top of the description box, man. Just click on that link and use that link to create your new raid account, and it's gonna pop off with all kinds of freebies, man. A double legendary start and 3 free epic champions as you level up your account, man. Basilius Uranus as the starter champion, and the rest of the epics will just pop up in your inbox as your account levels on up. And you can also use the beginner code Desert Queen to get your hands on 2 Hanorach is a day 1 starter legendary as well, so double legendary start, man. Don't get much saucier than that. Okay. Cleoptrix. A1 skill is an attack one enemy with a 50% chance of placing a weakened debuff for 2 turns. The chance increases up to 70% chance when booked if the target is under a hex debuff. Okay, cool. Place a perfect Vil buff on this champion for 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy under hex. Alright, man, so a little bit of extra survivability from Veil buffs. Not too bad. The A2 places an increased crit rate, increased crit damage buff on Cleope for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. So it's always nice when a nuker brings along these sort of unique buffs and unique tools to their kit. Has a 100% chance at booked of placing block active skills debuff for 2 turns if the target is under hex debuff. So once again, relying on that hex. Also, block active skills, very, very good into wave content and stuff. And I suppose it's useful into Chimera as well, into Viper. But at the same time, hopefully you just got Lydia to place block active skills into Viper form in Chimera, and Cleoptrix doesn't really bring a whole bunch of other stuff that's that useful into Chimera, so she's not really an optimal Chimera champion to bring for the block active skills too. It's more for wave content, man. Her A3 is another attack all enemy skill. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, but it's increased accuracy buff for this champion for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. 100% chance of placing hex for 3 turns, so it's a long duration hex debuff. That's quite good. 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn instead on enemies that are already under hex debuffs. And their passive, of course, counterattack with the Cleoptrix's default skill. Every time she loses 30% HP or more in a single turn, and always counterattacks when attacked if 2 or more allies are dead. Okay, so you might already see the issue. Where is this champion actually good? Obviously a very, very solid champion into wave content with multiple attack all enemy skills, an attack-based champion, decent damage on this champ. It's got to be said. Potential fear debuffs, block active skills, wave content, okay, fine. Most legendaries in the game are good at least into wave content though. And I've got to admit, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to think of a single boss in the game where this champion is actually good, you know? She's caught in this strange sort of middle ground where she's pretty good against waves, but the only thing that she's got in her entire kit that's actually good against bosses is the weakened debuff, and that's it. So if you can bring any other damage dealer that brings anything more than a weakened debuff, you're gonna bring that damage dealer instead of Cleope. Now, I have built her out as best as I can. I'm gonna use her in some areas of the game where she might actually do pretty decent. You can be the judge of your own account and judge whether she's worth building or not for you. I've got her with the Nature's Wrath Blessing, increased damage inflicted by this champion for every debuff they successfully place. She places Hex, she places block active skills, potentially places weaken and fear debuffs, and so that's a lot of debuffs. She's gonna ramp up damage very, very quickly with this blessing. Nature's Wrath, a little bit of a no-brainer. I've also got a built in a Refi Coronet. I'm trying to push the envelope a little bit in terms of a build. Not the best gear and stuff on my account, but not bad, and like the kind of stuff that you could maybe approach in your own account, you know, if you're like in the mid game. A Refi Coronet gives attack and accuracy, and whereas damage increases by 1% each time they place a debuff, stacking up to 30%. Again, she places a lot of debuffs. She's going to ramp up damage quite quickly with the Coronet. And then as for her gear, I've got a built in Relentless gear. Now, this is just because, honestly, most of her value is going to come against wave content anyway, and one of her skills, her A3 that actually places the Hex, is on a 4-turn cooldown, right? So she got 2 attack all enemy skills, but one of them was on a 4-turn cooldown. For me, that suggests that she's going to want a Relentless set to just get around again to using her AoE skills as much as bloody well possible. So a Relentless set on Cleopa using her as more of like a debuff, a damage dealer hybrid feels like the way to go for me. That said, I'm leaning pretty heavily into damage with this build. I've actually got a build with a 100% crit rate, even though she self-buffs with crit rate. You know what, I'll patch that up actually really quick. Just switching over to a weapon here that gives it's got more crit damage rolls than crit rate rolls, so this is just going to shift up our build a little bit. So she's a little bit under the crit cap now, which it's fine. She self-buffs with crit rate, so it's not a big deal. So just a little bit of last minute build refinement there, but this is what the build is going to look like. You don't have to build it with a crazy amount of accuracy, though I've got it built at quite high accuracy. I've actually got it in a attack banner, so I'm not deliberately going super mental on the accuracy, but she does bring an increased accuracy buff on herself, so you don't need to build her in that much. And this is what our final stats are going to look like. Not the most refined build in the world, but that's sort of the point. First things first, I don't want to short sell this champion into Chimera. I don't have any keys to go ahead and pump into Chimera just yet to test her for today. The keys just haven't reset yet. She's actually not bad at all for completing Chimera trials, but as far as pushing Chimera damage, she's not going to be the best for that job. I just want to be clear about that. She brings a lot of unique buffs to the table, and the block active skills is useful, and the weaken debuff is useful against a single target boss and a longer fight like this. For a newer account, if you haven't got any better options, she'd probably do a pretty damn good job for you, to be honest, into Chimera for getting you started, right? She contributes towards like 7 or 8 Chimera trials, and so she can get your foot in the door, but you're ideally hoping for better damage dealers than her. I'm not sure that I recommend, building it just for pushing Chimera on your account if you're in like the mid or, the late game of your account. Well, first off, I'm just going to throw her into a Hydra team that's, a pretty decently strong Hydra squad. We're going to start with the Necmos or Relied. We're going to throw Ugo into this team for Provoker. Let's throw in a Coronar, dude. Everybody loves Coronar, right? I love Coronar, at least. This first test, let's throw her in as a damage dealer alongside the Thorlin Foulbeard, so we can get like a pretty good test of how she compares to what I consider to be like a pretty good, like maybe A- tier damage dealer into Hydra. Really quite good, a lot of AoE damage on the Thorlin, and he does enjoy longer fights. And for healer, tell you what, for the final support slot, let's see if we can get away with using a Glycad. Increased defense, revive, brings Veil buff, that kind of thing, see if we can get away with this. First test is, of course, going to be into brutal difficulty Hydra, so we are trying to put the champion through its paces at least a little bit. That said, I'm expecting the Thorlin to wipe the floor here. I'm expecting a lot of the damage from the Cleoptrix to actually come from the Hex debuffs, which the 310 duration Hex debuffs are actually a very big deal and do feel very saucy and very good. Indeed, we've got our good old Coronar here acting as Mischief Tank that's going to be protecting a lot of the buffs on a lot of our guys. And let's just see how the Cleoptrix does as the fight plays out. Okay, we have our very first decapitated Hydra head. Big old AoE smack actually comes in for 600k from the Cleoptrix there on the decapitated head. That was a pretty good bit of damage there. I definitely can't whinge about that. Let's go ahead and, okay, we're actually just decapitating like every single head in the game just now as well, which is bloody lovely to see. But, okay, we only have decreased defense up against one of the decapitated heads, but here comes the increased crit rate, crit damage for the Barrage A2 attack all enemy skill. Let's see how this hits, particularly on this decapitated head right here that actually has the decreased defense and weaken. 500,000 is actually not that bad. That's a bit more than I was anticipating, to be fair. Now, yes, it's a decapitated head, and it's got a lot of sort of optimal debuffs up against it, and, all of those factors do sort of come into account. But at the same time, that's actually pretty good, given that I've got a built-in Relentless gear more than anything. Hits for 270k with the A1 against a decapitated head there. And the Cleoptrix's damage is only going to go up as the fight goes on, as the Erethi Coronet and her Blessing ramp up damage over the course of a longer fight like Hydra. So, we hit for like nearly 300k there against a decapitated head again with the A1. It's a shame that we didn't get any extra 10 rolls here exactly, but okay. Alright. Not terrible. Not terrible so far, actually. I'm low-key impressed. Not blowing my mind, and we still have a Thorlin on the team who just used his A2 into the decapitated head and hit for over 2 million in a single skill. So she's still got a lot to prove against a very, very solid damage dealer like a Thorlin Foulbeard, of course, but still not terrible. Okay, more decapitated heads, which is always lovely to see. Isn't Raid Shadow Legends the only game in which you can say that and it doesn't sound crazy as hell? Okay, man. 2 decapitated heads, weakened debuffs, all of that good stuff. I tell you what, now is your time to shine, Cleoptrix. You've had some time to ramp up your blessings and your Rethi Coronet. See what you can do. Another 500,000 hit on the decapitated head over on the far side over here. Not bad, not bad. I hadn't really ramped up more than I thought it had. Then again, that was a A3 skill that places the Hex. Let's give her a chance at using her A2 skill next and see what the damage multipliers are like on that. Who knows, maybe it hits a hell of a lot harder and I just haven't realized that the multipliers are different on that A2. So the A2 is going to come out next once we get a couple more attacks out the way. Oh lovely, it's going to get to go in against a few decapitated heads here, which is just bloody stupendous to see. My god, dude, when is it going to be head 10? Oh god, okay, she used it. A weak hit against a couple of the heads. It was about 500,000 again, though, on the decapitated head. Okay, I'm going to let this fight play out for like 10, 15, 20 more turns, and then we'll see how her damage is comparing to Thorlin. Oh man, we enter on into boss 10 count 60. What? Oh my god, dude, she just A1'd for 800,000. Okay. The Thorlin just got off one more attack as well. I think this is a good place to tie it off. Out of 74 million damage, how did she actually do? She felt better than I expected. Did she actually perform though when you check the numbers? Or are you just better running like a Skrank or like an AoE HP banner or something like that? Right, let's go ahead and end the battle here and see where the damage numbers lie. And the Thorlin did 35 million. The Cleoptrix did 24 mil. That is better than I anticipated. Honestly. Maybe it's only slightly better than I anticipated. I was ready to rip this champion to pieces, though. That's not bad, you know. Like, these are not bad numbers. They're not incredible. I'm not saying, like, this is a great champion. Maybe it's like a C+ or something into Hydra, which isn't great, but it's better than, like, an Alice the Wanderer, who doesn't really bring any utility to the table. At least the Cleopas bring in a long-term duration Hex, you know? And the Relentless set seems to work out pretty well. In fact, let's just try with the same run again, this time without the Thorlin, and throwing in just a Skrank instead. If we just have a Skrank on the team instead, and then we just go ahead and toss this in as a quick battle. What does a Skrank perform? Just an HP banner. Just Skrank, great champion, by the way. And of course, he's 4 times empowered on my account. He's also in Relentless gear, by the way, and a lot of hand-me-down Relentless gear at that. So his build isn't crazy. The Cleoptrix's build is probably better than the Skrank's, to be fair. So let's see how this goes. We actually finish off at 68 million damage. And the Skrank actually out-damages the Cleopi. That's a little bit less encouraging, isn't it? Given that Skrank is a Void. Okay, he's an epic champion. Yes, he's a Void epic, but he's still an epic champion. You know what I mean? Ooh. I don't know what I was expecting there, but maybe this puts it into perspective a little bit more the kind of caliber of Hydra champion that Cleoptrix is. And you're probably hoping for something a little bit more than this for most legendary champions that you're going to build specifically to help you out into Hydra teams. So honestly, I'm going to give Cleoptrix like a passing grade into Hydra, but it's like squeaky bum time. Like, it's like the closest passing grade you've ever seen, you know? And maybe I'm honestly just being overly generous. Now, I gotta say, just checking onto hellhades.com and checking some of the reviews for Cleoptrix on here, some of the star ratings, I'm a little bit surprised to see a 4-star rating, a little bit randomly, for Cleoptrix for Celestial Griffin. Frost Spider, okay, I kind of get it. She brings an increased accuracy buff on herself, so she can land the Hex between the Spiderlings and the boss a little bit more easily, and maybe, you know, maybe the block active skills does something against the Spiderlings, which I have no idea if it actually does, and otherwise she can maybe land the occasional fear on the Spiderlings in a Frost Spider, but I don't know. Celestial Griffin feels like a bit more of a mystery. Where is this 4-star rating coming from? Because to me, it sort of feels like Cleoptrix is about as good into Celestial Griffin as she is into all of the other bosses, where, and by that I mean, well, she brings a weakened debuff on the A1. That's it, really, you know? She doesn't really do a whole lot else, man. It's like a huge downside to my kit is that everything she has, minus the Hex into Hydra and the Weaken debuff on the A1, those are like the only tools that are decent into bosses, and everything else is like waves only. You know what I mean? Now, she does bring a counterattack mechanic on her passive. Maybe this is where she gets the Griffin props. Counterattacks with the default skill every time she loses 30% HP or more in a single turn, and so... You know, maybe against Griffin, she's triggering this counterattack in the A1 and getting good weaken debuff uptime against a boss that is always transferring its debuffs back onto your team. And so, you know, maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something there. Let's go ahead and run this team on in with a mix of budget champions and, of course, the ninja on the team to speed up the clear a little bit and see how she does. I've got a sneaking suspicion that she's going to help us out a lot more against the waves than the boss, but let's see. I'd be happy to be proven wrong, you know? Against the waves, she's very, very good. But so's every damage dealer with multiple attack all enemy skills, so it's not saying much. You know, we're looking for things that set her apart. And so here we go onto the boss. I believe that she's going to open with her A1 skill against the boss straight away, so we'll see how that goes. I'm running a lot of debuff cleanse and stuff in this team with Doom Priest and with Dudan. She's going to open with the A1. She fails to land the weaken on this occasion. That's okay, that's fine, man. You like if first you don't succeed, try again, right? So she's gonna smack here. She doesn't take quite enough damage to trigger the counterattack against Griffin. This is only like mid-tier hard Doom Tower Griffin. So against a harder difficulty of Griffin, maybe she would have taken enough damage there to get off the counterattack. Bit surprised that she didn't get it off there. That looked to me like she took 30% damage, but whatever, dude. Now she's gonna attack all on and in and try and get up the Hex debuff. For whatever reason, the Hex just doesn't land. Maybe weak-hitted, I don't know. She's actually weak affinity into this current difficulty. Finally, she gets up a weakened debuff. But like, this is the thing. This is the thing. When you look at every other champion on this team, you've got decreased speeds coming out from the High Katoon and the healing, and same thing with the Doom Priest, the healing and the debuff cleanse, which is very valuable. You've got a lot of debuff cleanse and shielding coming out from the dude and the Runic as well. He's like a resistance tank in some sense against this boss in this specific team. And then you've got the ninja doing crazy max HP damage. What's the Cleoptrix really doing that any other standard damage dealer couldn't do better? When all things are said and done, she did reasonable damage against the waves, but it pales in comparison to the overall impact that Ninja had on the run. I know Ninja's like a specialist champion at a Griffin. Okay, fine. He's a great boss killer champion, so his damage is going to be great, but I don't know. She's fine. She's fine, dude. She's fine, but she's only fine. Now, one thing I will do is build Cleoptrix in just like a crazy, just Mongol, like mental damage build with just all of the best lethal gear that I can possibly put together on my account. And I guess we'll go ahead and throw like the best accessories on her that I can manage as well. And so this new Cleoptrix build is going to be pushing 361% crit damage. This is full lethal gear. Her speed is trash. Her accuracy is actually still okay just because she's got such a high soul. I guess we could also go ahead and switch the Arethi Coronet for like a crit damage relic as well, but I'm very low on Starstone. I switch around my relics too much as it is. Let's just take her into Dragon and just one-shot a wave and see how it feels. To maximize damage output, we're going to put Royal Guard as the aura lead for 35% attack aura. In this dungeon, we'll get Lydia for the weaken debuff, decreased defense, that kind of thing. I will also put an Archmage helmet on the team for increased crit damage buff, because even though Cleoptrix brings that in her own kit, she her best multipliers are actually on her A3, which is not her increased crit damage buff. You know, we'll take an increased attack from Arbiter and then finally go ahead and put in the Cleoptrix herself. Okay, let's go ahead and run this and see what we can do. Preparation phase, increase attack, 10-meter boost, all of that good stuff. Decreased defense and weaken from the Lydia, which for whatever reason got resisted by a couple of these guys. What? That's some extraordinarily unlucky double 3% a chance getting those resisted, but whatever, dude. It's all good. I guess the Royal guy can just A1 this guy and try and place decreased defense here. He weak hits, because of course he bloody does, you know. Okay, so now it's time for the Cleoptrix to come on in and smack with the A3. How hard can she really nuke? It's just like the best nuke gear on my account. The answer is... I mean... Not that hard. That's not very good. I expected a lot more than that. I really expected a lot more than that, dude. 270k with all of these buffs. Like with all these buffs combined, she's sitting on like 400% crit damage. And she only crit for like weakened decreased defense. And 270k is the best she could do. Oh, definitely relentless set for your Cleoptrix in my view. Losing a bit of damage to get all those extra turns, especially in longer fights, probably gonna be the way to go. I gotta tell you the truth, man. I gotta tell you the truth. Let's just make this an episode of Busted or Bad right now. Gosh darn it. Is this champion worth building? No. Nah, I don't think so. For most people, probably not. By the time you get this champion from fragments, right? Oh god, I've put an Erithi coronet on her as well. I'll just leave it on. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine, right? I don't think that she's worth building. I don't think that she's worth building. I think that, honestly, she's probably not a good investment of your skill bucks. Okay, if you're very, very desperate for a good Hydra damage dealer, and I mean good in like with a huge pinch of salt. What I really mean is serviceable Hydra damage dealer for like a Hydra C team by the time you get her, and you pull a good, like at least 4-star soul for that champion, for Cleoptrix. Fair enough, you can go ahead and build the champion, and she'll probably do okay for you. You know what I'm saying? She'll probably do alright, but outside of that very, very small circumstance, you're probably never... Why is it... Game's just freezing on me, bro. You're probably never looking to actually build this champion, man. Not in terms of books, at least for me. Another small caveat as well is she's so good against waves that you could hypothetically go ahead and build out your Cleoptrix against... or just for faction wars. Specifically for Skinwalker's faction wars, if you are on the cusp of getting Lydia and you are just lacking good damage dealers for your Skinwalkers overall. Okay, fine. I can also imagine a universe where you'd want to go ahead and build her just to help you deal with the waves and just get through the faction wars and secure Lydia, you know what I'm saying? Fair enough. Every other case, every other boss in the game, I gotta say, I agree with the in-game reviews. I'd bump her up to like a 4 in Hydra, no more than that. Maybe like a 4.5 in faction wars, because she is pretty good at controlling waves, block active skills, that kind of thing is always going to be great. Everywhere else, I think that the reviews have got it right, man. I'm not gonna lie. And so what do you guys think, man? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is she worth building? Have you built her on your own account? Am I missing a boss in the game where she actually excels that I didn't cover in this video? Let me know down below, man, what y'all think of this free legendary. Is she worth building in your view? If you're looking to create a new raid account, man, then while you're down there, why not go ahead and click on the beginner promo link that's down below this video at the top of the description box, man. Just click on that link and use that link to create a new account for all of the free champions that you see on screen right now. And I am going to catch all of you guys